Hi, my name is Deb Marnie and I'm from Aussie Maille. This is our chain mail tutorial channel. Hey guys, big hi, hello, how are you? Thanks for popping in and seeing me today. It's really great to see you. So today I've got a weave tutorial for you. This weave is called 2-in-1 Captive Parallel. Sounds a bit of a mouthful, but I promise you it's a nice, easy weave. All right, guys, let's get into it. Okay, guys, so I've got some sample pieces made up here for you, and I'll run through those sizes that I use to make up these pieces. Those sizes will be coming up here on the screen, or you can also find them down under this video in the description section. But to take you through them right now, our big one over here on this side, the larger rings, so that's the anodized rings and the big silver rings you can see here. These are 14 gauge AWG 1.6 millimeter diameter wire, and they have a ring ID of 5/16 of an inch or 7.94 millimeters. The smaller connecting rings that you can see in here, these ones are 16 gauge AWG, that's 1.2 millimeter diameter wire with a ring ID of 5.25 millimeters. The next size, the larger rings, are 16 gauge AWG 1.2 millimeter diameter wire with a ring ID of 5.75 millimeters. And the smaller anodized rings in the middle, they're 18 gauge AWG 1 millimeter diameter wire, and they have a ring ID of 5/32 of an inch or 3.97 millimeters. And then finally our fully colored one here, the larger rings, so this is these large dark green rings and the lighter green, the seafoam rings. Those ones are 18 gauge AWG 1 millimeter diameter wire with a ring ID of 3/16 of an inch or 4.76 millimeters. And the smaller connecting rings in the middle here, they're 20 gauge AWG 0.8 millimeter diameter wire with a ring ID of 1/8 of an inch or 3.18 millimeters. Okay, so I'm going to do this chain in the 14 gauge or the larger option. Visually, I don't think it's the best option. I like the middle and the smaller sizes better, but this will help for you to see it. So what we're going to do first is we're going to construct this middle chain. So where you see the BA, we're going to construct that chain first. So it's very simple. All you need to do is take up one of your large rings. In this case, it's the 1.6 millimeter 5/16 of an inch ring in the bright aluminium, and we're going to make that up with a chain of the smaller ring, this 1.2 millimeter wire 5.25 millimeter ID ring. So just go ahead and make up a very simple chain, one large, one small, one large, one small, to the length that you need it to be. Plus you're going to need 2 to 3 centimeters or about an inch extra in length, because it will scoot up a little bit as you weave the other rings around the outside of it. So just go ahead and pause the video and make it up your starting chain to the length that you need. It is very easy to add to, so don't get too concerned about getting the exact length that you need to start with. Just weave as much as you want, and then you can add to it as you go down. But you go ahead and do that now, and I will meet you back here to start the next section. Okay, so I've got my small section of the middle chain here. I'm going to set that aside for the moment, and I'm going to start up the next chain. So this one we need to use the 5/16 rings again, and for this colorway I'm choosing to go all anodized. So we want to start off with a small piece of 2-2 chain. So go ahead and do that. Okay, so there's our small piece of 2-2 chain. I'm going to grab a twist tie this time and pop it through one pair of rings. It just makes it a little easier to hang on to. Now I would suggest, especially if you're not comfortable yet working with holding on to all of your work and opening rings at the same time, I'd suggest opening up a couple of your large rings in advance. And once you've done that, you want to take up your initial chain and we want to lie this inside our second pair of rings, our end pair of rings, and we want to position it so that our small ring sits inside that end pair of large rings like that. Okay, we want to capture that in there. So once you've got that placed, take up your opened large ring and feed it up through just the 2 coloured rings that are in weave already, so that we lock it in place around our centre chain, capturing it. Okay, so close that ring up. So you can see that we've locked that in place now, and we now want to place a second large ring through that same space. So remember, we're just picking up the large rings. These rings should only go through the same coloured rings, not through any of the other rings of the centre chain. Okay, and our work looks like this. Then take up another pair of large rings, another 2 large rings, and feed it through the set of rings that you just placed in your weave. Okay. So your work should now look like this. These are the rings that we've just placed here, and they've gone through our previous rings. What we want to do with these rings is place them so that they encircle the next small ring in our center chain. Okay, so just move the rings over so that you've got one sitting on each side of your center chain, encircling our small ring. Once you've got that in place, pick up an opened large ring, feed it through the 2 rings that you just placed, the 2 large rings you just placed, and close it, locking your chain into position. Once you've got that first ring in, slip in a second large ring. Okay, and you've locked those rings in place, and you just keep repeating those steps. So the next one is taking up a large opened ring, feeding it into the rings that you just placed, putting a second into the same path, once you've placed your new rings, we want to position them so that they encircle the next small ring in our center chain. Okay, so we put one on the top, one on the bottom. It's encircling our small ring. We take up another opened large ring and we feed it through just the large rings that we placed so that we lock them into position around our center chain. So there's one, And there's 2. Okay, so this is what our work currently looks like, and that's it. That is all there is to this. So you continue to build your outside chain down the length of your work, encircling each small ring in the center chain that you made initially. Okay, so there's our 2 new rings. Okay, we want to position them so that there's one on each side of our center chain, and that they encircle the small ring in that center chain. And to lock it into place, we place our next rings through there, capturing just our outside colored rings. Locking it all down. And that's it, guys. That's all it takes to make up the 2-in-1 captive parallel weave. Now, one further thing that I want to mention here, so you can see that we've got this very large ring here, and you'll have one down on the other side of the end. So as you see here, we've got one large ring sticking up here, and we've got another one sticking down there. Now that may not bother you if you're making this into a bracelet or something. I'll be honest, it bothered me. I didn't like the end. It looked too unfinished. So what I decided to do to tidy up the end a little bit was I swapped out this very large center ring. So once I had done the work, gotten it to where I wanted it to be, I swapped out this very large center ring here and put a slightly smaller ring of the same gauge in there. So this particular one, this is the middle size. So instead of that being the 5.75 millimeter, I swapped it out for a 4 millimeter. So about the same size as what that internal ring is in there, but I chose the same gauge as the large outer ring. So it's the 16 gauge 1.2 millimeter with a 4 millimeter ID. Swapped that out for the 5.75 millimeter that was already in there. It's up to you whether it bothers you or not. It bothered me, and that's what I did, and I would then attach the clasp to here. But that's it, guys. That's how you weave up your 2-in-1 captive parallel weave. Okay, my lovelies, well that's it. That is the video tutorial for today. I hope you enjoyed it and you found it of some use. If you did find it useful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up here on YouTube. Share the video if you like. While you're here, if you're not a subscriber, if you would consider subscribing, that would help us out immensely. Ruffle around in some of our other videos. We've got plenty here for you to check out. Leave any comments or questions down below this video. And last but not least, guys, don't forget to give the shop link up here in the corner a little bit of love and affection. That's where we sell the bits and bobs and you know whats. You're going to need to whip up this weave and many others. Alright guys, thanks once again for popping in and seeing me. It's really great to catch up with you. I hope you keep safe and well, and I'll catch up with you sometime in the very near future. Bye.